Violent protests have shut down the Durban University of Technology, with 3 of its campuses closing their doors. Operations were suspended on Tuesday. 4 vehicles were torched during this protest. Disgruntled students say they've been struggling to register for the 2022 academic year. For the latest on this story, let's speak to Alan Khan, Senior Director of Corporate Affairs at the DUT. Alan, good afternoon. The campuses, the 3 campuses still closed?
Dan, yes, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to join you today. The 3 campuses in Durban, which are the Steve Biko campus, the ML Sultan campus, and the Ritson campus, which are all in the similar vicinity, were temporarily closed earlier this week, as you correctly say, after an outpouring of violence, a campus invasion, and illegal occupation of some of our on-campus residences and off-campus residences. And it was taken in the best interest to secure the safety and security of our staff, our property, and as you mentioned, 4 vehicles belonging to staff members were also set alight. There has been a sad trail of violence and arson attacks over the last few days at the university. It started last week with a petrol bombing incident at the historic city campus building in the Durban CBD. We then also had a DUT vehicle which was set alight during the early hours of the morning by unnamed suspects. Looking at the CCTV footage, you can see in today's pandemic world with people wearing masks, it's extremely difficult to identify those suspects. And then several other incidences. We've had people break into our student admissions department on the sports center, intimidate and harass staff. Computer equipment was broken. We've had office doors broken down, windows broken down, and then sadly, a few days ago, one of our security officers who are based on the ML Sultan campus was trying to defend the campus and the finance department from being broken into. He suffered a very serious injury to the top of his head. He required medical attention. Thankfully, he's doing much better. But it just shows you the scale of the violence and the arson that we are having to deal with.
What's the reason for the protest? We understand that students are saying they've not been able to register for 2022 academic year and that there are some challenges with DUT. What caused this protest originally, from your understanding, Alan?
Dan, like many universities in the country, due to the pandemic and the challenges that we've had to face over the last 2 years, registration has moved to be online only. And it has been a change from what's the normal custom, which is physical on-campus registrations. And this year, it was online registrations only. And whilst I can understand that some people are experiencing challenges, the reality, Dan, when you look at the fact that we need to register just over 31,000 students this year, and we currently have just under 23,000 of those students already registered, all online. There are a number of students, if you do the math, it works out to just over 8,000 students who still need to register. And many of these are encountering challenges regarding funding and other issues. So certainly the university is going to be as helpful as possible. But this has really spurred on some of the disgruntled students that we've seen who protest outside.
But what about the concern that we've seen in other reports saying that the students are upset also with the DUT's mandatory vaccination policy, and they are frustrated by the online registration process and want access on campus to sort out those online registration issues. What is the university's position on that?
Dan, let me take it in 2 bits. Firstly, demanding access to campus. At this stage, there are no physical on-campus registrations. It is taking place online. The university has opened up WhatsApp lines, numerous WhatsApp lines to assist students with inquiries. Of course, emails, not just general email accounts, but per faculty email accounts. And students are also calling in. But as I mentioned, more than 2/3 of students have already registered online. And the reality is that for now, and it doesn't seem to change, that registration will be strictly online, no walk-ins. What compromised this is that someone had circulated a false statement, fake news if you want, Dan, inviting people to come in their hundreds to register. And even if you haven't applied, flood the university gates. And this created a whole heap of problems at the start of this week, which resulted in the campus invasion. So, you know, in particular, the online registration, we can understand that there's been some reluctance, but the way it is at the moment, it is online. And as I said, close on to 22,000 students have already registered online. In terms of some of the issues that the students are facing and the points that you are raising, whilst we are greatly aware that some students have access challenges and may be struggling, we urge them to certainly get hold of the university, and we'd be able to do our utmost to assist. The violence should not be tolerated. We are all for tolerating peaceful protests. South Africa is a...
But Alan, that's understood. Yeah, that's understood that nobody should tolerate violence. But if they are struggling, if a student is struggling and he or she has been promised a place at the university, and maybe they've got NSFAS funding as well, they've got good matric results, and they can't get online for whatever reason, and they can't reach you on campus because you're not allowing anybody, and you've shut down 3 campuses now. How do they contact you? I mean, because you're now battling against fake news and false information that's circulating. What should they do in order to get their problems resolved? What are the contact points?
So, as I mentioned, we have numerous WhatsApp accounts which we've posted publicly on our website and written to students to promote. They can also call the university. We have email accounts. For now, there is no on-campus registration, so there's no physical face-to-face or mask-to-mask engagement. You had mentioned earlier that there is this notion that DUT has a mandatory vaccine policy. Now, at the beginning of December last year, the DUT Council, which is the highest decision-making body at the university, they passed a policy that provides students, staff, and visitors with 3 options. Obviously, one, to disclose that they're fully vaccinated, and then they can engage with the university and attend a specific invite-only on-campus, whether it's tutorials, lab sessions, lectures for exit-level students, and so forth in our back-to-campus plan. The second choice was, well, if you were not fully vaccinated, you then need to provide a PCR test, and if it's negative when you present it, you then be granted access onto campus. And then the third option was, well, if you are not vaccinated, you refuse to go for a PCR test, then you will have to continue online as it's been the case for the last almost 2 years now. So,
but is that fair? I'm just thinking here, sorry, Alan, I just want to hear your views here. It's 500 Rand to do a PCR test. It's come down from 850, and Ampath and Lancet Laboratories and others have reduced it to 500 Rand. I mean, a student to come up with 500 Rand for a PCR test is quite a hefty sum of money when they're battling just to access funding and come to school, to come to university. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Is that fair?
Well, Dan, we've made vaccination as easy as possible for staff and students. We have vaccination centers in Durban and in Pietermaritzburg. We've already vaccinated thousands of people. We're offering vaccines right now to first-year students who are going to be registering and joining us on campus. So the DUT Vaccination Center is operable. We are partnering with the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Health, and it's been very successful since we launched it last year. Of course, government have their own vaccination program, so students are allowed to go and vaccine either in the communities or come through to the vaccination center to commence the vaccination program, which will then allow them to exercise one of the 3 options in the policy.
Okay. So for now, those 3 campuses are closed. Violence has stopped. There's no protest anymore.
Well, we haven't seen any violence since we had the court interdict granted this morning. We approached the High Court and provided a whole series of evidence, and the judge this morning granted an interim order.
Hopefully it stays quiet.
For now, looks like things are calm, and we should make an announcement in the days ahead regarding the reopening of those 3 campuses. Obviously, the other 4 campuses are peaceful, there's calm, and things are continuing as normal on 4 of the 7 campuses.
Alan Khan, thank you very much for that update and for your time here on eNCA this afternoon on the latest